Hi guys, it's Blackie.
And Bear.
And this is always number what?
35.
35. Wow. 35. Pretty impressive. If you haven't figured it out by now, Wayz will always be posted on Bear's channel now. I'll make reference to it on my channel, but it's going to be on Bear's channel now. Here it is, the end of July, and we actually had a record cold morning on 2 days ago where it was 67.
It may have been at your house. I don't think it was at my house.
According to the state,
Of course, you live up on the mountaintop.
I'll live a little higher up, but because of that, it said that we actually did break the low, and it's now for that day is 67. It was 68, so yay, we actually got a cool snap, make it all the way to lower Alabama in July.
It's actually a little cooler today when the breeze hits. It's a little cooler, it's a little drier than it has been.
That's the big thing, it's the drier air.
Yeah.
I looked at humidity, and it was 47%. Well, that's half of what we're used to this time of year, so it just makes it seem so much cooler to us down here because it's not quite as bad. You can't quite feel the air going in and out of your lungs. I'm sweating sitting here, but I'm not just rolling sweat like I normally do.
Yeah.
Even though I got a dog hassling like crazy on me. It's like having a hot air gun blowing on you. Yes, Beth, I hear you.
She's a high-speed, low-drag.
Yeah, she loves to get herself scratched and loved on.
She's either running wide open or she's asleep.
Yeah, 2 speeds on an Australian Shepherd. We had one Australian Shepherd I was telling you about named Nellie.
Yeah.
And I had a ton of other kind of dogs. That was the first Australian Shepherd I'd ever had. And she was a blast. Oh boy. You know, we had cats, and she got along with cats just fine. The only problem with it is she loved to play fetch. And if you think you're going to go in there and sit down on the couch and watch TV, you are sadly mistaken. Because this tennis ball would roll into your lap in his head. You'd sit there and stare at the ball and stare at you and stare at the ball and stare.
Okay, I'm ready.
And
Marky said go.
she never got tired. She would not, you could tell her, go lay down, curl up. No, it didn't matter. As long as that ball is in the known universe. And we'd pitch it out down the hallway and she'd back, ready to go again. You know, my granddaddy had a dog that was a cross between some kind of shepherd and a small dog, and about half the size of Beth here, named Smokey. And Smokey was hyper intelligent. You talk to him like a person. You know, Granddaddy would go and fix a plate, and then he would show Smokey the plate, and if Smokey wanted some, he'd put just a little bit on a paper plate and put it down low for him. He'd tell him, wait till it cools. He'd sit down and just wait until Granddaddy look at him and go, okay, you can eat now, it's cool enough, and he'd whoop it down about 3.1 seconds. You know, he could hoover up just about anything.
I had that dog, so mine was a yellow lab named Bess. We could talk. We didn't, it was a conversation.
Well, I mean, especially when you're young, dogs are so much of a companion. My dad had a dog when he was a small boy named Diff, D-I-F. I don't know where the heck they got the name from, but Diff. And everybody in the family had some dog. There were all kinds of working dogs, but then there was the dog.
Right.
For me, it was my bear, who was half wolf, half Newfoundland. And there are those that, all of them get in your heart. There's a few that get in your soul, and you just can't get rid of them.
Yeah.
I lost Bear in 1993, and he's buried in my front yard in a flower garden. And I made a gravestone marker for him and everything, and on some cold nights I get me a wee dram of whiskey, my pipe, and a chair, and I go sit out there in the moonlight and talk to Bear. still miss that dog, even though he's been gone 30 years now.
Yeah, Bess has been gone since probably about 95, 96.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been 96 or 97.
Mm-hmm.
But I could be out in the front yard with her and my two oldest boys, and if they started going toward the road, she would step in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they circled around behind her, she would get right in front of them and put her head in their stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And just very, very gently push. And if they were really feeling frightened and went around her again, she'd grab them by the scruff of her pants and pull them back up to the steps. I mean, she was such a good dog. I could actually like go inside and get something to drink and leave her with the kids because I knew they weren't going to the road.
Yeah.
She wouldn't let them.
We had one named Sergeant.
Yeah.
Sergeant or Captain? I think it was. We had 3 German Shepherds, and I always run together, whether it was Sergeant, Captain, or King, because they all looked alike. You know, it's like you just took a mirror image and made another version of it.
Yeah.
But I think it was Sarge that we were babysitting some family members, little ones, and we just put a big cloth diaper on her and put the kid out there on a blanket in the sun to, you know, do what kids do, take a nap and stuff. And we're up on the porch, you know, get some air, let kids get out and play. I know people today absolutely freak out at that. It wasn't like we're abandoning them in the middle of something. It'd be like 15 feet that way, you know. You put a blanket out on the ground and let the kids get out there and play. Little bitty babies that could just barely crawl. And
they would be just as happy as they could be.
they'd be happy as they could be, you know. And if they got off the blanket, Sarge would grab a hold of that knot and the end of that cloth diaper going around and pick them up by the diaper and set them back down in the middle of the blanket. So they could crawl around the blanket, but they couldn't leave the blanket. Oh, yeah.
I love her like she was my own, like I had helped birth her. But my future stepdaughter has a young child, and she goes through all the books, all the websites, and her mom and I keep saying, chill. These folks, I mean, their opinion is 1/7.5 billionth of what the world thinks.
Yep.
I've raised 4 of my own, and her mom has raised 2.
Yeah.
So between us, we've got 6 kids under the belt.
Oh yeah. We got a little experience in doing
We
that.
try to have a feeling of how to do this.
Got a working idea here how this goes. I can get that on there.
But yeah, we have a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the whole idea of it. I mean, a dog around the house added security, and we've talked about in the past how dogs were security systems. Granddaddy kept like 10 of them.
Yeah.
They were not a pet, they were a security system. And then they were companions and pets. And I remember my stepbrother's dog, Rusty, which was just pure mutt. But he kind of looked like a golden lab.
Sooner.
But he was he was bright, he was intelligent, he'd hunt. You'd pull a bunny rabbit tail out of the glove box and let him sniff it, and he knew he was hunting rabbits. We did that with squirrel tails or coon tails or a piece of possum fur. As long as he smelt it, understood, okay, that's what we're looking for. He'd bark squirrels, he'd run deer. You know, he was just an all-around woods dog companion. And I remember catfishing at Granddaddy's pond. And if there was one thing in the world that dog loved, it was raw chicken liver.
Really?
Absolutely couldn't get enough of it. And so you're trying to fish for raw chicken liver,
Yeah.
for catfish.
And he's sneaking out of the bucket.
Oh boy. Well, you know, I got the little tub. I'd go out there with like 2 tubs to fish.
His and yours?
And no, it's like, because half time it slings off, you know. And there were some big cats in that pond, and I knew it. And so I always just brought me 2 tubs of chicken livers. and you'd bait up, and he would be laying 30 feet down the dam over there. You'd throw out, you'd cast, you'd glance back, and he's like 25 feet.
He's
20
sneaking,
feet.
he's sneaking up on.
Oh, he would crawl on his belly, and then before you know it, I mean, you'd get a fish on, and you about time to turn around and land, he's 10 feet. And I'd tell him, go back, go back. He'd go back over and lay down. You'd get a fish on that was being difficult, and I want you to, and the whole tub was gone. If that nose ever went into that tub, it was gone. He would inhale that entire tub in one bite and be gone. But he loved chicken livers. Granddaddy got the bright idea that he'd got fleas kind of bad. So Granddaddy put diesel fuel on him. Try to kill the fleas.
Yeah.
Turned him loose. He took off at a dead run and ran and jumped in the catfish pond. Diesel fuel in the catfish pond was not a good idea. He had to bring the irrigation pump up and hook it up to try to flush out that pond. For fear it was going to kill all the fish in there, because there was a scum of diesel fuel over the whole pond where Rusty had dove in there and watched that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it only takes about an eyedropper full to put that sheet on.
Exactly. So
But it's not going to, I don't think it would hurt it.
he didn't know.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing. He didn't want it killing all of his fish. And so he had to go get the irrigation pump and hook it up down there in the branch, and went to blowing water in there trying to recycle it and flush it out over the dam. All because and Granny was laughing at him. Well, you knew better than put that on. So, well, I want to get rid of the fleas. That was a dumb idea, you know.
Granddaddy used to have some robes back over here, over our gates. And all it was a chain stretched across, wrapped up with canvas bags, and he would put like creosote or something on there, and the cows would go and rub under it and kept flies off of them.
Yeah. I have seen that. I've seen it where it was a creosote log, creosote telephone pole.
Just something for them to rub under.
And they'd put a big horse swivel and an eye bolt in, and it'd hang about that high. And cows sit there and just back up and roll on their back. Hot day, and the flies wouldn't get on because of creosote. I remember seeing that.
Yeah. Oh, for the more attentive in the group, you may be wondering about this. I had some outpatient surgery on Monday, and there's nothing to it. I mean, it's just, I'm wearing it to protect us, to protect my wrist out here in the wide open spaces, but nothing to it.
He gonna live.
Oh, yeah.
But one of the things I want to talk about today is, oddly enough, about the thing. Everybody knows about my haversack and stuff right now and my gear. But I wanted to show you kind of like one of the things I started out with. And I'm going to be doing a video for this on my channel on the Ground Pounder series. Because I've been talking to several people back and forth about how I ground pounded back then with the surplus gear. And so this is reconstituting the rig I ran back then, basically. Now, as I've said, my first knife that I carried in the field was a World War II K-bar that had come from my uncle. And it had one of the fiberglass Navy sheaths. So it looked like a bayonet sheath, but it was actually for the K-bar. It wasn't a leather. And then later on, from one of the family members, I got a K-bar sheath. Didn't have a knife, but I got a K-bar. In fact, if I remember right, it was part of Uncle Luther's bunch, but somebody in the family had a broke K-bar. They got rid of it, but he still had the sheath. And the sheath was hanging up out there in the barn where he kept the lawnmower and everything, and he used it to strop his knife on it. And I talked him out of it somehow. So my first real bushcraft knife was a K-bar, and after that I went to toting a old hickory butcher knife in a K-bar sheath. Now, These are not horribly strong, but if you know what you're doing, you can do a lot of work with them. That's what I did. But for processing gaming stuff, this is the way that I went. And often I would have a hatchet or something, or I'd just break for firewood. I didn't worry about having to cut firewood. I live in dense forest, and so it was everywhere to pick up limbs.
Yeah, don't torque on one of those.
No, they will snap.
That's strictly for processing.
All right, so this is the rig, basically. This is a U.S. Army poncho rolled up around the strap. This is a U.S. Army 1960s Vietnam era butt pack. This is the same type era canteen cup and cover of that same era. Back here is an M14 pouch, and this I carried my fire kit and other small quick handy things went in there. In those days I didn't have a Bic lighter, I had a Zippo lighter because everybody smoked and it was easy for me to get Zippos for some family member and some fluid. So in here I carried that, and I carried matches, and I carried little bits of tinder, a piece of fat wood to shave down, that type deal. Then I had the main butt pack that carried my stuff, and then I had my water, and this was also my cook kit because the canteen cup and the canteen cup stove in there. Now down here on the bottom, this is a U.S. Army sleeping bag cover that I used as a summer sleeping bag, folded up and put on the bottom of this. And this would ride like this on me, so that the canteen, see how that rides in the middle of your back? The canteen rode right here in the front, and you just hook this onto your butt like that, and that's the way I carried it. I could still reach my canteen and get my canteen out to drink, and my gear was right behind me, almost in the butt pack position. But I'm carrying it on a strap instead of carrying it hooked to a belt. That made it very easy for me to take it off and put it down. And then inside I would carry food, etc., and things like that. But that was my early kit. Now, and like I said, a video that's going to be coming out soon on my channel will be the ground pounder, it might even be today, and it will be discussing using this kit, because I'll do a retroactive setup the whole camp and show you how you did it. But this is what I started with, basically, back in my day.
You talk like you're old.
I feel old a lot of times, I'll put it that way. A lot of times I look back, especially, you know, I'm sure a lot of the Simple Wolves get this. You'll be sitting there talking and somebody will say, when was that? And you got to figure out that was 35 years ago or 40 years ago. Seemed like it was last week, but, you know, when I was talking to somebody about this and they said, well, why don't you show that? They were talking about the Ground Pounder series. And I got thinking, well, that is the original butt pack I had. That is the original canteen cover. Some of that is the original gear I carried when I was a teenager. It's held up that long, and then I moved on to other things. But I can still camp with that. And oh, and I'll show that in the video. The mesh hammock. I got the mesh hammock in 1980. And that was such a game changer, because then I didn't have to lay on the dang ground and get out of the bugs and everything else. That's one of the reasons I like the sleeping bag cover, is because it's basically a mummy bag with the snaps that fit to a U.S. Army. And on the ground, you got into it and you just kind of left it open, and it kept stuff from crawling underneath you and etc. because you're kind of in a bathtub.
Yes.
You know, and the heat we got down here, it never got cool enough till after 11 or 12 at night anyway to lay down.
Well, I was telling you, I was at work one night last week, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, it was 82 degrees.
Yeah, 82 degrees at 2 o'clock in the morning. I believe it. And probably 90% humidity.
Yeah.
When, and that's friends of mine, they're up north, they're in northern Ohio, and they were talking about it was, you know, 91 and hot and etc. And I said, what was your overnight low? Well, it got down to 64. Wow.
If only.
we went to Pathfinder in June this year, and I expect to sweat at Pathfinder. They were projecting the high during the day of being 75 to 80, and the low that night was going to be 59. I was dancing like a kid, boy. I mean, whoo-wee. We actually were walking around. I had to put on a long sleeve shirt. It was awesome, you know, in June.
Back when I drove a truck, I spent a month doing short haul in Wisconsin. And we're talking 75 or 80 during the day and
Yep.
upper 50s at night. And I loved it. I loved it.
Well, that's the big thing. If it will cool off at night, I'll endure the heat of the day, but dang it, I want to cool off at night. And we don't get that much down here. By the time the sun goes down, and then it's worse right after sundown, because that's when the ground has been heated all day, and the heat starts radiating back out, because now the sun's gone down, and you think it'd cool off. It ain't. The ground is radiating heat, like you pull that pan of muffins out of the oven, and that pan's hot for a few minutes. The ground is so hot,
Right.
and all the air is going straight up. And so there's no airflow, there's no breeze, you're just stagnant, sitting there gagging. And that goes from sundown at 8:30 to about 9:30 to 10 o'clock at night. Around 11, you get the first good cool breeze shows up from the Gulf. That's the reason you'd sit around the fire till 1 in the morning before you ever went to bed, because you knew it was too hot to go to bed.
And there's those very occasional nights where you can smell the salt coming in off the Gulf.
Very true. There are nights you can smell salt water as far north as we are. If you get a good, strong onshore flow,
Yep.
you can smell it.
But anyway, we digress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that setup. I showed mine the other day, and I've got a setup very similar to this, with my haversack and my equipment belt, my field belt. I'm thinking about doing some modification to the field belt, but nothing drastic. I've also got an German Alpine pack, not 1950s vintage, made out of good heavy leather. And I can take it, I can get my other stuff on, except for the haversack. I can get my equipment, my gear belt on, and then flip the pack over my shoulders, and then put on my haversack, or put my haversack around my waist as a belt bag, and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
But it's modular. My point was that it's a modular system. And if I want to take a rifle, I can take I have a magazine pouch that I can put an extra magazine in, or two, and just clip it onto the belt. If I'm going to do shotguns, I can unclip that and clip on a shell pouch, a shotgun shell pouch,
Yeah,
onto the belt.
on mine, on the side of the M14, there's the grenade clip.
Yeah.
I clip a compass pouch on there, and that'll have usually small arm ammunition, where it's handgun or shotgun shells, whatever I'm taking.
Right.
I clip it on there, so I got access to it.
But that's what I like about a modular system, is you can, for those of you old, it's like a director set. You can unscrew this, pull it off, and screw something else back on, and have a totally different outfit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we kind of got spoiled, because we came up where you had World War II surplus, Vietnam, Korean War surplus, and all of that was modular, where it mix and match what you wanted.
Yeah.
I remember going into Kirkland's Antiques over on Glover,
I remember.
and that's where I got my very first Boy Scout manual that was on a shelf there. Mama went in there wanting to get something, and I went and looked around. They had a shelf, and they had some surplus on it. and he had the Boy Scout book, and he had a butt pack. In fact, I think that is the butt pack I got from there. And bit by bit, that was the first surplus I'd ever seen in a store. And I came home, played with that, and then that kind of unlocked Pandora's box, because all the family members who had been World War II, Korea, etc.
Oh, I didn't know you liked that kind of stuff.
Oh, you want an Army canteen?
I got a bunch of this
Yeah,
stuff in
come
the
on.
closet. I mean, pick what you want.
And I went to asking all the men in the family, have you got any Army gear? Well, all of them had served just about. And it was like, what you wanting, boy? Well, have you got a canteen? Well, I got a cover. Yeah, I got a cover. I got a canteen, because I use my canteen. Well, I'd get that. Somebody else had a canteen. Somebody else had a cup. The first time somebody showed me the canteen cup stove and had to hook it onto it and rake up coals and heat up coffee on it, that was just blew me away that you could cook on it like that. Didn't have to build a big fire.
Let me ask you a question. Well, before I do that, I have a subscriber who was asking me questions about, because I'm a big guy. Okay, I admit it. I own it. I have diverted my subscribers to Kaufman's, and I told them to Google Kaufman's and to get with those ladies, and they'd be glad to help them out. But he was asking me about a large belt. And you know, we looked through down there, we found the largest belt that we could, which almost worked, but they also have extensions.
Yeah.
They've got an extension that's about that long, that's a fork on one end and a clip on a clip into on the other.
So you take your existing buckle and lock
Yeah.
onto it, and it adds that much length.
Yeah,
So it's
it
like
adds about
two
that
buckle
much.
ends, click, click.
Yeah, and that's what I did. And I was telling this fella that if he will contact them, they can set him up with it.
Yeah.
Because every time we go down there, they've got belts and they've got the add-ons. Remember, I bought 2 add-ons, never used the other one, but I've lost enough weight that I can almost make it buckle and relaxed. And but for whatever reason, I'm still using it. That's why it looks kind of, that's why it's big on me. It's because I've got that extender.
And that, like I said, if you're hunting really big guys, go look in the Navy.
Yeah. I don't know what the closest Navy that we've got is Pensacola, and I don't know what's down there. I really don't. Maybe we should.
Yeah, I ought to go down there and take a look. I mean, and that's just it. Kaufman's gets stuff from all the military bases down here in the region. Years ago when I worked for another place, making a little extra pocket money, and that was MP Surplus and Pinker.
Yes.
And we would go
so
to
sad when they went out
Oh
of business.
yeah, and we went to we'd go to Pensacola and bid on surplus, and then we'd go to Georgia, and there's a Marine Corps base in the middle of Georgia that we'd go there and we'd bid on it, and then we'd go up here to Montgomery to the Air Force base and bid on it, you know, and about 2 or 3 times a month you'd spend a day running here, running there to go bid on and pick up and bring back new surplus to go through. So you never knew what they had, and I've mentioned it, I don't know if I mentioned it in always, but I have mentioned it. I've talked to the ladies over at Kaufman's, and I'm going to go over in the fall and take a day and do some digging, and we'll do a video and let you know what I find, like U.S. Army ponchos, like Alice packs, like Alice pack frames, straps, tarps, whatever.
A true deep dive.
I'll deep dive, and they let me do it and dig into one of them 4-foot square boxes somewhere and find something where we got a big enough supply to make it worth the time and be a piece of gear that's in demand. And I'll do a video saying, like a little short going, okay guys, they got U.S. Army ponchos. Here's the price. I have gone through and hand selected 50 of them. And so if you want one, call them and tell them, and that way you can go with that.
Disclaimer, this is not in place yet. So
Not
please,
yet, so
please
hang on.
Do not get up with Blackie. I want 3 of the ponchos. Don't call the girls at Kaufman's. I want 3 ponchos. It ain't happened yet. We're still putting all of this together to go and look.
Yeah, because, you know, I've gone in and dug a little bit, but you're talking about this building as an old factory. It's the size of a Walmart supercenter.
Yeah.
And
Lots of storage.
it's full of 4-foot square boxes, most of them double stacked.
Yeah.
And so you just have tunnels like this wide to walk between the boxes and find stuff. And I was looking for a friend of mine's a certain type of camouflage that was surplus for years and years and just is dried up and can't find none. And she wanted that the old square dot matrix.
Yeah, Marine Corps.
No. Before that, it was the desert night camo.
Yes.
Right in the beginning of Desert One, it was green and was that checker pattern to be the static pattern of night vision goggles. Apparently that is a hot tamale up yonder in Ohio. They take it and add a little bit of dye to it, and that's a really good camouflage for their woods. And so when I went down there and asked the ladies, they said they had thought they had sold all they had of it. Somebody in California where apparently it's some big hot camouflage in Canada. And so, you know, the big old smocks. It was a 1950s fishtail Parker outer shell, but it was in that digital pattern is what it was. Trinity wanted it for Ohio, for Kentucky and Ohio, so I don't know.
But anyway, that's upcoming.
Yeah.
Quick question.
Yes.
How much money, reasonably, do you have tied up in that?
Now this in past, but I'm pretty sure you could pick up a butt pad like that for like 10, 15 bucks. The canteen set about the same. The poncho, which I got, was 15 bucks. So about less than 50 bucks for all of it, more likely.
That's the magic of surplus. He's completely kitted out for around 50 bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, think about this. You got all of this high-end gear. Okay? You've got all of this high-end gear. And, you know, you're paying $50 for next to nothing. Pardon me just a moment. Fill in.
Okay. Well, that's just one of the things. A lot of the modern gear, it may be better in some ways. I'll give them that. It's probably a lot lighter. I'll give them that. But it's definitely a whole lot more expensive. And I had a friend of mine, they were big into the ultralight backpacking stuff. And he was showing me a $350 pack he got out of this Cuban fiber. Guys, it looked like a Walmart bag. I mean, it was about that big. It was about as thick as a Walmart shopping bag. You know, like when you put your groceries in, it was thin. That's what it looked like when you picked it up. And it was $350 for this thing. And how it weighed like 1.1 ounces and all like this stuff. It had like 1/2-inch wide straps on it. But hey, he wants to go hike the Appalachian.
This was a backpack with 1/2-inch wide straps.
1/2-inch wide straps. The whole pack's like that big and is about that wide and about that deep. And it's basically just a sack with a cinch cord at the top. And it's $350, but it's some uber fiber, Cuban type fiber, whatever. And, oh, it weighs so little, and I'm going, for $350, that thing better be sitting here at the second coming.
Absolutely.
I better be able to throw an engine block in that sucker and it not give way. And he got it, and I mentioned it in earlier videos, he went with it, and like 3 years later, and I'm keeping up with it, about 3 years later he was talking about he was going going to some sort of big show up in Atlanta, and he's going to be getting him a new pack. I said, what about that such and such pack? He said, oh, the bottom came out of it.
Yeah. That's the problem with designer camping gear. Okay? Yeah, if you're into weight, you want to go as light as you can. But if you've got a pack, if you're going on a 75-mile hike, and the gear gives out at mile 35, what are you going to do?
Yeah. There's a lot of.
This stuff won't, this stuff takes a licking and keeps on ticking.
It went through Vietnam
Yeah.
and came back as surplus.
And
And
it
then
could,
it went through me
yeah,
for 15 years.
yes.
And it's still functioning today.
And it could have gone through any little action that we had between Vietnam and the time you got it.
Exactly.
That's our point. Designer gear is great and it does have its place, but it wears out too easy, in my humble opinion, okay? Everybody's got theirs, that's mine. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. We can have this conversation all day long. There is some of the modern gear that I really like the Braille.
Oh yeah.
I like a Braille. As soon as I can save up enough egg money, I'm gonna buy me a Braille.
It was a hard thought to invest that kind of money. But I can say now after 3 years, I've been very happy with it. See, the Blackhawks are skimming over the tree line again.
Yeah.
They love to buzz 1,000 acres. But the thing about it is I finally had replaced this spring. I had replaced my second filter,
Right.
which gave me like 2.5 years worth of use. The first one I killed in less than 2 months because of red clay. And then after that, I wised up and I pre-filtered, and I got 1.5 years out of that thing, using it a lot.
You stored it wet, right?
I always store mine wet. I leave water in it, leave it full. And when I get home, I go fill it up, squeeze water through it 2 times, fill it up all the way to the very tippy top, close it up, I hang it up on my shelf. And when I get ready to go, I'll go in there and I'll unscrew and dump that water out, put fresh water back in it and go. I keep the filter wet because I don't want, in case there is red clay in there, I don't want it drying and becoming concrete,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
But yeah, it's well worth the investment, and nothing against the Sawyer or the other stuff. I know people have used them a lot and they're a good system.
You know that bladder, that camelback that I've got? Well, I have a Sawyer in my drink line so that I can dip it in the pond or I can dip it in a stream, close it off, put it on my back and drink filtered water. The camelback that I've got, I think is like 4 or 5 gallon.
Well,
Four
wow.
gallon.
Probably 4 gallons,
4
yeah.
gallon camelback.
Yeah,
And the filter is good for 10,000 gallons.
yeah.
So I'm not gonna wear the filter out anytime soon.
No, the only thing that can happen with that is filter clog up somehow.
Yeah.
Where something happens. And something that we haven't discussed, but has actually been very popular along the thru hikers, is the UV pins. Where it's a little pin that it's got a UV bulb in it, and you stick it into the water of your canteen, you hit the button, and it'll run for 90 seconds, and it kills everything in that water.
In the canteen.
Inside the canteen. UV radiation. It's how a lot of municipalities have gone, instead of chemical means, using UV, because if it's alive, like bacteria, protozoa, you bombard it with UV radiation, it's dead.
Yeah.
And so, being the fact you're doing it in something like a quart canteen, it's we call it a SteriPen. You pull it out, and it's battery powered, and it's got like a 2-inch probe, 2 or 3 inch probe. You stick down the neck of the canteen, and you hit the button, and it's got its own little timer. And when it turns green, everything in that canteen's ready to drink. Now, several years ago, I knew somebody that was a thru hiker, and she was going to rely strictly on that. Pre-filter with a handkerchief to keep it from being kind of murky. But other than that, that was it. So she used some coffee filters and a little bitty mesh thing she had to filter her water through. And then she stuck it in and Steri-stripped it, and she did half the Appalachian Trail and never got sick. So that, and like I said, a lot of municipalities have started doing that, where they just run the water through tubes. It's got these UV lights in them, and it'll clean and sterilize it quick. And for a homestead, whatever, but they've got them now for backpackers and stuff. And it's battery powered, it'll fail, but it could be one extra little item to throw in a pack, especially in a family set, that would be really useful.
Can you change the batteries?
Yes, you take standard AA batteries.
Really?
Yeah. And so as long as you took care of it, have a Sawyer and then that together, you'd probably be well suited for a long time.
Yeah.
Because like they point out, if you take a clear bottle like that and fill it full of water and put it out in Alabama sunlight for a full day, it'll kill everything in it.
Yeah, the
UV, because bacteria, protozoa, and all like that, they need oxygen, and they also need shade. They can't take the radiation well. So that's the reason they want to get under that leaf, into that stuff on the bottom, whatever, even in flowing water. And they'll pass through open areas of water, open sunlight, but they'll want to get deeper or whatever to get away from it. They can't do that in that bottle. Just fill it full and turn it sideways so it's maximum, and you can sterilize water in that bottle.
Right. You remember the old Boy Scout trick they used to show, or we used to show, boiling water in the bottle?
Yes. Yeah. Boil water in a bottle, cook eggs in an orange, fry bacon and eggs in a paper sack. Yeah.
But that sounds like an upcoming episode.
Yeah, when is Bear going to release his cooking book? Bear's All Way Cooking Edition 1. It's coming out soon.
Official Blackbird cookbook.
No. This is going to be Bear's All Way, Cooking with the Bear. That's where that's going to go. 'Cause I got enough on my plate right now, believe me. Well, brother, anything else you want to bring up?
Did you want to say anything?
I was just using it for a comparison of that. You know, I'm still doing my field testing. I've got some cordage in this one right now. This is one of the small pouches. And I've got the large pouches hung on here. I've got a field manual in it I was doing some stuff with. When you see this, the video will already have posted where Trinity is doing a limited run of the pads that go in the back of the Blackbirds. So if you go over and look at my channel, excuse me, it should have posted Friday. This should post Sunday, so it should have posted Friday. Excuse me, of the sitting pad that's also the water carrier, the gathering bag, the signal pad, blah, 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 all of that. So that's the first of these three. She's putting that on, and if, like I said, if you don't have one of my rucksacks, it will also fit the German Alpine bag, and there are tons of them. That's my all-time favorite bag aside from my bag. So like I said, if people say, would you take an Alice pack or would you take a German Alpine? The German Alpine. You know. Is there anything better? Yes, my rucksack. Shameless plug, but I spent a lot of time developing that thing.
Hey, it really is a good system. It really is. If you have any doubts, don't.
I've been very lucky that we've only had like two little minor little nothings, but anytime you're having something basically handmade, it's not hand sewn, but you know what I mean. It's not being factory produced overseas. You're going to have a little glitch every now and again where something wasn't exactly right. But Jay stands by his product, contact him, say, hey, this was a little off. He'll take care of it on the spot. And there's only been two things that I know of, and it was really minor, you know, just a little slip up. But other than that, it's been really, really good, and we've got over 100 of the bags are out now. I think we're coming up on 150. And people are very happy with them. I've got pictures from all over the world. People have sent me of them using theirs, going backpacking, canoeing, kayaking. One guy was doing a motorcycle trip through Europe.
With your haversack?
With my rucksack and haversack. He said, that's my camping gear. He had it mounted on the back of his motorcycle. So I thought that was pretty cool.
I wonder how many orders he got.
I don't know. I don't know. But I have thus far shipped to, oh my God, Hong Kong, which is China,
Yeah.
I've shipped to Sweden, Germany, Finland, Poland, Spain, England a lot, Scotland, France, Portugal,
Greece or Italy.
Italy, yes, one to Greece, and not the rucksack, the haversack, let's say. And also Mexico, Brazil, Australia, New Zealand. What is the dang island out in the Indian Ocean? It's one of our bases.
Madagascar.
No, it's a base.
Diego Garcia.
Diego Garcia, a guy that was working ground crew for the Navy at Diego Garcia, or Air Force, excuse me. Diego Garcia wanted a haversack of mine. So I have shipped all over Japan, Canada, Alaska.
It's been an awesome run.
I have not shipped to Russia. I have not shipped to India yet.
Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you never know. I even had, at the beginning of the hospital, over a year ago, I had somebody contact me from Ukraine, wanted me to ship them a haversack. And then they didn't order. I don't know if the war got in the way or what. But they, you know, I could have one of mine in a war zone by now for all I know. So, but they've been around.
That's awesome.
Anyway, getting off of that stuff. Anything else, brother?
I think we're good for today.
Well, guys, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much. And please put any comments down there about old dogs you've had, surplus gear you've got, surplus gear you want me to look for. Because like I said, I'm going to be digging through that in the fall. It ain't happened yet. But give me an idea of what people are looking for.
Yeah, there's no air conditioning to speak of in the storage area. So we got to wait till the weather cools before anybody can go back in there, because they will get overcome by the heat.
Yeah, I mean,
It's an older building.
I went in there, was in there like 30 minutes and came out sopping wet, where if I stood still, I made a puddle. So we just wait till the fall for it to cool off. Well, till next time, guys, I'm Blackie.
And Bear, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Excellent. Till next time, guys, I'm Blackie and Bear. Wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.